Call in line at 405-329-9000 or text the show on the Knippelmeyer Chevrolet text line at 405-651-3439.
Do it! Just do it!
Now, with Locked In, here's Parker Thune and Grayson Singleton.
Did OU lose a recruiting battle to Rutgers?
You tell me, did they?
I know that question's going to crop up very quickly here on the Knippelmeyer Chevrolet text line as we get rolling here. 3-star defensive lineman Tavian Branch, fresh off his Oklahoma official visit this past weekend, committed this morning. And he committed to Rutgers, which is really unfortunate, Grayson, because he is from Scranton, Pennsylvania. So I was very much looking forward to making lots of office jokes and references if indeed Tavian Branch had wound up at Oklahoma. When has there ever been a Scranton Sooner? Come on. That would have been a first, I think. But Tavian Branch comes off the board, not to Oklahoma, but instead to Rutgers. The high 3-star defensive lineman from Riverside High School up in Pennsylvania is a Scarlet Knight. Now, for the moment, Oklahoma's lone defensive tackle commit in the 2026 cycle is 4-star defensive lineman and friend of the program, Brian Harris. He's still the Lone Ranger. Now, the good news for Oklahoma, Grayson, is that, look, there are a million different ways you could spin the Tavian Branch recruitment, and ultimately that was probably a recruitment in which Rutgers was more heavily invested than Oklahoma anyway, because if you pay attention to how many defensive tackle targets Oklahoma has coming in for official visits, or that did OV this past weekend, they're casting a pretty broad net. They're giving themselves options. They're not going to let their defensive tackle haul live or die with the addition of one particular individual. And so, though you would have rather had Tavian Branch, certainly, or Tavion, I guess it is, though you would rather have had Tavion Branch, Oklahoma has some very viable candidates elsewhere to wind up in their 2026 class. And that's where we'll kick things off today on the program, brought to you by Dorsey Jones GMC out in El Reno. Great sales staff out there, great service advisors, half-price oil changes on Saturdays. Let them set you up with a GMC, one of the most reliable trucks or SUVs on the road, whatever your favorite flavor in the vehicle department happens to be. You can head out there to Dorsey Jones GMC, and they will take care of you. Now, Grayson, there was another defensive tackle that took his OV over the weekend, and we have barely talked about this individual at all. But there's a strong Oklahoma vibe in the recruitment right now. It's definitely subject to change because he has other official visits coming up. But Teron Richardson out of Hopewell, Virginia, OV'd with the Sooners over the weekend, and per all of the conversations I have had in the aftermath of that trip for Richardson, Grayson, there's a lot of reason to believe that the Sooners occupy the lead dog role in that race. Now, if you've not yet had the chance to watch the tape on Richardson, it's fun. He's a fun player. 6'5", 280 pounds, so a big boy.
Yeah, that'll do.
A real big boy. A Roy D. Mercer big boy. He's going to take official visits to Virginia this coming weekend and Virginia Tech the weekend thereafter. Now, there are obviously two programs that are much closer to home for him than the University of Oklahoma. But if you're talking about the prestige factor, no doubt, Oklahoma has that versus the other contenders in this race, which are primarily Syracuse, Virginia Tech, Virginia. Those are his other OVs right now. On paper, you tend to like Oklahoma's chances there. That said, you probably would have liked Oklahoma's chances against Rutgers for Tavian Branch, right? So take everything with a grain of salt, but there's strong Oklahoma buzz right now with Teron Richardson.
And that's cool, but this is still a kid from Virginia. And also keep in mind about Syracuse, too. Syracuse is not a program that's on this steep ascent like SMU is or something like that. But Syracuse, I'll tell you what they do have, a pretty charismatic head coach. with Fran Brown. Like, that dude's fun. Like, that's a dude where I see his interviews and I'm like, it'd be kind of cool to play for him. Not going to lie. So, don't underestimate that and the fact that New York is a hell of a lot closer to Virginia than Oklahoma is, and you never know how far a kid is actually comfortable leaving away from home. So, in that regard, I'm not so sure I would say, Oklahoma should be pretty comfortable with this, unless he just really likes Oklahoma more than he likes the two Virginia schools. Virginia Tech's cool. Virginia Tech's got a pretty cool home atmosphere, Inner Sandman, and things of that nature. So I think this is one that if he likes it, Oklahoma should get this done. If he doesn't, it's no big deal. It's a kid from Virginia who may not want to come from the East Coast to the Mid-South.
Well, and also, as far as the Richardson family dynamic, and I'm not sure how much this will play into it, but T-Ron Richardson lost his father not too long ago. So that is also a factor that tends to favor the schools that are closer to home when that is the reality. And it is an unfortunate reality, but it's something you see in recruiting every now and again, a kid with certain personal circumstances that naturally are going to play into the ultimate decision. So we'll see where things land with T-Ron Richardson, but Oklahoma came out of his OV feeling pretty dang good, which is fortunate, right? Because Taj Overton is certainly a guy for whom you favor the Sooners going into his Champ U Barbecue official visit. It's kind of anybody's game right now, anybody's guess with Valdon Sohn, the 4-star defensive tackle, who's also from Virginia, but originally from Sweden, that's going to OV with the Sooners at the Champ U Barbecue. Nebraska very involved there. Florida very involved there. Doesn't really feel like anybody has a distinct edge there, but the Sooners would like to take 3 defensive tackles. And so another guy that we've barely talked about that was on campus this past weekend for his OV is Elijah Golden from the state of Florida. He's down to Oklahoma, Virginia Tech, Alabama, and Notre Dame. Now he goes to Alabama this weekend, Notre Dame the next, so those are 2 powerhouse programs that are going to have the chance to make a fresher impression upon Golden than Oklahoma will, but the Sooners are going to remain a player there. So even with Branch out of the picture, off the board to Rutgers of all places, and again, I think this is the first time I have ever covered an OU Rutgers recruiting battle. But even with Branch out of the picture, there are options. Brian Harris occupies 1 spot. It comes down to who the other 2 spots go to. Could be Elijah Golden, could be T-Ron Richardson, could be Valdon Sohn, could be Taj Overton. All you got to do is bat 500.
Pretty much, which is a good spot to be in. So let's take one of these spots for a second.
Okay.
And let's zero in on the state of Oklahoma and Taj Overton. Haven't talked a whole lot about him in recent weeks. Where do things stand with the Tulsa native? And is this a guy you can comfortably project into the class? Because if you can comfortably project him into the class, now we only got 1 spot that you got to fill with, 3 other options, and you feel a lot better.
Can I comfortably project him into the class? No. And that's mostly because he's a quiet kid who's mainly kept the recruitment to himself and just has not disclosed a whole heck of a lot in terms of details about where his head's at. But the consensus opinion is that this is and has been a battle between Oklahoma and Ole Miss as well. Oklahoma State is also there in the picture, but it's mostly OU Ole Miss at the top.
Like Oklahoma State generally is with that area.
Correct. Now, I favor Oklahoma because that's kind of just the vibe I've caught for about the past year or so, is that he's been in Oklahoma lean. That's never substantially changed. Never have I felt it's a sure thing that he's going to wind up at Oklahoma, but it makes a lot of sense. Right, he was an early offer for the OU staff. They were on him before hardly anybody else in the P4 was. Real strong relationship with Todd Bates. He's remained a priority for the staff throughout the turnover in the front office, or I guess the creation of the front office. Jim Nagy and folks in that office have put their stamp of approval on Taj Overton, so he's been a priority throughout. You would think that with him coming to town for the Champ U Barbecue, getting to rub shoulders with the majority of Oklahoma's other commits, because there are, I believe, 6 verbal commits right now that are scheduled to be on campus for the Champion Barbecue. You'd figure the Sooners are going to be in pretty strong shape to be able to close this out. So Overton, if I had to rank the 4 in terms of likelihood, here's kind of how I would break it down. If I had to rank the 4 in terms of likelihood, I would have Overton at number 1, T. Ron Richardson at number 2, Elijah Golden at number 3, and Valdon Sohn at number 4.
So can we infer from that Valdon Sohn probably not going to end up with Oklahoma?
No, that's the reason I put him at 4 is because he and Golden are pretty much interchangeable in that regard, because I think it's anybody's ball game in both of those recruitments. But Golden has already seen OU in the official visit context. Sohn has not. So that's why I go with Golden over Sohn just slightly.
And we see high-profile recruits that shut down their recruitments before they get to certain places. I mean, you just had a wide receiver at Texas that just shut everything down.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to monitor the rest of Golden's process because, and I'm just gonna repeat what I always want to say Tavian because that's how it's spelled. I'm just going to repeat what Tavian Branch said about his process. Whether people want to buy it or not, that's up to them. But what he had said about his process as he wound down to the conclusion and ultimately landed on Rutgers was that he had said when he took the OV to Rutgers, he sort of knew that was where he wanted to be. But he wanted to take the Oklahoma official visit just to make sure. And taking the OU official visit helped convince him that Rutgers was home. That is what he said. That is the way that he rationalized it. And so, who's to say that something like that can't benefit Oklahoma in much the same way? Like, let's say Elijah Golden goes to Alabama this weekend and decides, I really loved Oklahoma. It's just not the same here. I don't think it's going to be the same anywhere else. Let me be a Sooner. I don't expect that that's going to happen. But
it could.
And it's happened with OU guys in the past. Cade McIntyre is a great example. Cade McIntyre in the 2023 cycle took a midweek OV to Oklahoma. He was scheduled for Iowa that weekend. Some part of him wanted to commit right after the OU visit. He decided to hold off, go to Iowa. Being at Iowa convinced him beyond a shadow of a doubt that he wanted to be at Oklahoma.
Probably because he was in Iowa.
You got to keep in mind, though, that kid was from Fremont, Nebraska.
I'd take that back.
Iowa gets a lot more guys from Nebraska than Oklahoma does.
They certainly do.
And culturally, Iowa is a lot more similar to Nebraska.
Well, see, when you drop the Nebraska part in there, that makes a lot more sense.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, you share my feelings on it. Have you ever been to Iowa?
No.
Oh, okay. I have been to Iowa.
I don't know if I have any
spent
desire
a lot of time
to go to
Iowa.
Iowa.
It's a lot of cornfields, man. It's a lot of cornfields. I grew up in Nebraska.
I was about to say, you should be used to it.
Well, here's the thing. People that have never been up there, they think of Iowa and Nebraska in much the same way. Like, they imagine those states being virtually identical, but you go to Iowa, it's literally just corn. You go to Nebraska, yes, I would say on the eastern third of the state, it's a lot of corn.
It's pretty much adjacent to Iowa.
But then you get out west, you have the sand hills. You get some really cool topography as you get closer and closer to Wyoming. Nebraska has some character as a state, much like Oklahoma, right? Like, you go further west in Oklahoma, you start to see some unfamiliar terrain if you've just spent your entire life along the I-35 corridor. Or if you go to eastern Oklahoma, right, you start to see the hills, the trees. Everything's a lot more lush out there. Yeah. Nebraska is kind of the exact same way. You have the central portion of the state that's just kind of ho-hum. You have the western portion of the state that's a little bit more desolate, kind of has more of that Wild West feel. And then on the eastern portion of the state, you have some more, what would you even call it? Foliage? Agriculture? Yeah.
No offense to you, but none of those three sound appealing to me.
Fair enough. Chris
from Knoxville on the Knippelmeyer Chevrolet text line. There's the axe murder house in Iowa, though. What the hell is that?
Nothing I want to take part in.
No.
Nothing I want to take part in. I'll tell you that much. Sooner Jana asks, how the heck does Oklahoma lose out to Rutgers? Well, okay, like, you have to put yourself with something like this, and I know there are a lot of folks that are instantly going to point to money. Well, Rutgers just paid him more. That may be true. I don't know exactly what the numbers were, but here's what I do know. The kid is from Scranton, Pennsylvania. And that kind of ties in perfectly with the conversation that we just had about Iowa. If you grow up in Iowa, you're going to be a lot more comfortable in Iowa than you will in a place like Oklahoma. If you grow up in Scranton, Pennsylvania, where are you probably going to feel more comfortable, culturally speaking? Piscataway, New Jersey, or Norman, Oklahoma?
Probably New Jersey.
There you go. It's not that way for everybody, but it's certainly that way for some guys. Yeah, understand why. That Electric City to 405 pipeline, though, it would have been electric indeed. I was so ready. I was so ready to clip a bunch of Michael Scott and Dwight Schrute sound. This was going to be a fun show if Tavian Branch had picked Oklahoma.
You definitely watched The Office as a kid.
Not as a kid. I didn't watch The Office until I got to college.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm. Zero Star Joe says, don't forget Carhenge in northwest Nebraska.
Never heard of it.
Yep, that's Midwest tourism for you. Carhenge. 405.
Tourism? What's there?
In Nebraska?
No, in Carhenge.
Oh, it's how can I describe this? You're familiar with Stonehenge, right?
Is this just like a big pile of cars?
It is a replica of Stonehenge made of vehicles that are stuck vertically into the ground.
Huh.
Like I said, Midwest tourism.
Interesting.
405-651-3439 is the Knippelmeyer Chevrolet text line. We'll keep talking OU football, recruiting, and potentially more geography on the other side. Keep it right here on the Ref, the home of Sooner fans, and we shall return.
Considering refinancing your mortgage? Now might be the perfect time to start planning. With rates on the move, Stride Bank can help you determine if you may be able to lower your monthly payments, shorten your loan term, or tap into your home's equity. Stride's expert mortgage advisors will work with you to tailor a solution that fits your needs. With local roots and national reach, Stride Bank is your go-to partner for all your banking needs. Stride Bank, your trusted financial partner since 1913. Find out more at stridebank.com. Stride Bank, member FDIC, equal housing lender.
Ah, the sounds of summer. You expect to hear this, not this. At bath time, the giggles should echo. Not alarms, but accidents happen fast. In just a moment, everything can change. Keep kids safe around water with these simple steps. Assign a responsible adult to watch the water. No phones, no distractions. Never take your eyes off a child during bath time. And always check for hidden dangers where kids play. Let's make water safety part of every day. For more information, visit oklahoma.gov/health/drowning.
Beats and Bites Festival is back again at Riverwind Casino, where good grooves and great food are on tap all summer long. Kicking off on June 14th with Josh Turner.
Would you go with me?
And Edwin McCain. Along with crave-worthy eats from local food trucks, there's something for everyone. Get your tickets online or at the box office for just $10. Only at Riverwind Casino.
Why don't we just dance?
That twinge in your knee isn't going to wait until Monday, and neither do we. At OrthoStat, we've expanded, so you get better hours, better facilities, and the same great care. Open 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., 7 days a week. Whether it's sprains, strains, fractures, or joint pain, from knuckles to knees and every joint in between, our same-day, affordable care gets you back to life faster. Visit OuchOrthostat.com to learn more.
What's up, Ref Army? Darinoka here of the SEC Network and your newest host here at the Ref, the home of Sooner fans. Starting June 30th, spend your late mornings with me and Josh Helmer every weekday from 9 to noon as we talk everything Sooners, and I'll help you all keep tabs on what's happening in the rest of the SEC. Whether it's on the plains of Auburn, the swamp in Gainesville, or right here in Norman, we've got you covered every weekday from 9 to noon on the Ref and worldwide on the KREF app. That's every weekday for the Darinoka Show from 9 to noon on the Ref and worldwide on the KREF app.
Oklahoma-based Precision Fluid Power sells new and remanufactured hydraulic pumps, as well as repairs for virtually any hydraulic pump, motor, hydraulic servo valve, and cylinder. We serve all industries, large or small, regardless of what equipment you operate. Industrial, mobile, agricultural, construction. With over 150 years of expertise, the Precision Fluid Power team can provide solutions to handle all your hydraulic needs, local or out of state. Precision Fluid Power can help. PrecisionFluidPower.com.
Imagine driving down the road or off the road in a new Jeep Wrangler. Discover what thousands of Jeep owners experience in driving a 4x4 that's so much more than a car, truck, or SUV. Right now, buy a new 2024 Jeep Wrangler 4-door 4x4 Sport for as little as $41,000. That's over $9,000 in savings. Or lease a new 2024 Jeep Wrangler Rubicon X for as little as $475 a month. These are just two amazing offers available while they last at Vance Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram in Guthrie during the Jeep Tops Off sales event. Vance's has special pricing and low interest rates on all new Jeep models. You'll also receive the Vance free lifetime engine, transmission, and other powertrain components guaranteed. That's right, free. So shop us in Guthrie, just off I-35 exit 153, or go to VanceAutoGroup.com.
See dealer for details for free lifetime powertrain guarantee. Lease agreement for 10,000 miles, 36 months, $69.54 at signing with approved credit while ad inventories last.
(405-651-3439) is the Knippelmeyer Chevrolet text line. Big Mike Boganowski shot us a text to say, Parker, I am tired of Grayson sneak dissing the great state of Nebraska. You need to take him on a tour.
And I am open to taking a trip to Nebraska.
Yeah, stay open to it, man.
Oh, I'm very much open to it. Now, living there, that's a whole other thing. But I am more than open to going to Nebraska.
To live.
I don't doubt it.
Not a bad place to live at all.
I like being around stuff. Like, I would live in Omaha or Lincoln. Like,
Omaha's
I like,
a great city.
I like being around
Just don't go to Council Bluffs. Don't cross the border.
Is that the wrong side of the tracks up there?
Council Bluffs, Iowa? Yes, that's the wrong side of the tracks.
Fair enough.
Mm-hmm.
I will take your word for it.
It is Nineveh.
Okay. Nineveh's wild, number one.
Oh, but yeah, Nebraska. Man, I haven't been out to western Nebraska in way too long. Gorgeous country out there. Gorgeous country. I want to play one of the, because they have some very high-end championship-level golf courses out in the Sandhills. Sandhills Golf Club is one. Dismal River Golf Club is another one. I got to get out there and play one of those courses, man.
I need somebody to teach me how to swing a golf club.
It's not that hard.
Sure.
I have my golf clubs in my car right now. I'll give you some lessons in the parking lot afterwards.
Okay.
The recruiting boomer says, drove through Nebraska one time on my way to Winnipeg, Canada. All I saw was irrigation systems, the rolling sprinklers. Yes, there are lots of those because, again, there is a lot of agriculture in Nebraska, and irrigation is big business up there because your crops got to get water, right? A 405 listener says, Parker, what happened to the recruitment of Dominic Williams' brother? That's an excellent question. OU offered him last summer at camp. He's at Norman North High School now. He's an edge rusher, pretty solid one. Undersized, but a good player. How hard is Oklahoma going to push? I have no idea. He's a 2027 prospect. The staff is pretty zeroed in on 2026 guys right now. And any offer that occurred prior to April of this past year should be considered one that needs to be revisited as to its legitimacy. Because there are a lot of guys that picked up Oklahoma offers over the last couple of years in the 27 class and even the 28 class that I promise you Jim Nagy and his staff will decide not to pursue. So, I have no idea how hard Oklahoma's going to push for Josh Williams, but he's a pretty solid player. Got the chance to see him a couple times this spring. He's a little baller, man. I love me an undersized edge rusher.
Why?
Because I appreciate the Eric Stryker types. Or even like R. Mason Thomas isn't small, but he's a guy that, for what you consider the positional prototype to be, he is undersized. But I just love guys like that despite the disadvantage when it comes to stature, they just play like their hair's on fire and make life a living hell for any offensive tackle they're lined up against. A listener in Colorado says, I really enjoyed that museum that goes over the interstate in Nebraska. I forget what it's called. It's a lovely state. I agree. My appreciation for Nebraska as a state has deepened since I left. You don't really appreciate something that has been around your entire life until you get away from it for an extended period of time. I have a much greater appreciation for Nebraska now than I did when I was 18 years old. I can promise you that much. Minnesota Eddie says, Villisca, Iowa, home of the Axe Murder House. Johnny Carson from Iowa as well. Omaha claims Johnny Carson. Is he from Iowa? Now I have to do some internet research because I know Omaha claims Johnny Carson. I don't know if he was born there, or he just lived there, or went to college. Okay, I know he went to the University of Nebraska. But yeah, look at that. He was born in Corning, Iowa. So why does Oklahoma claim him? Oh, because he began his broadcasting career at WOWT-TV in Omaha, Nebraska. There you go. Glenn from Nashville on the text line says, Parker, I asked this about a week ago, and I don't know if you ever addressed it. Why does it seem like OU is having a difficult time these last couple of recruiting cycles reeling in linebackers? I would think that if Brent Venables could recruit any position, it would be linebacker. Well, Glenn, I'll tell you why it seems like that. And I'm not convinced that is the case, to be clear. But the reason why it seems like that is because Oklahoma intentionally went light at the position each of the last two cycles. They only wanted one guy in 2024, maybe two if it was the right two. The one guy they ended up with was James Nesta. And there's a lot of love for James Nesta in the building right now at Oklahoma. They think he's going to be a stud. Now, in 2025, or in the 2025 cycle, I should say, the reason why it probably felt like they came up a little bit short is because Zach Alley wasn't a very good recruiter.
And somehow got a promotion after that.
He landed at West Virginia. Got a pretty substantial salary raise. Like, he's an excellent defensive mind, to be clear. Nobody can take that away from Zach Alley. But some of the stories I heard from his interactions with recruits and their folks and just the overall effort that was expended there in the recruiting realm over the course of his 11 months on staff at Oklahoma. It just, I guess the best way I can put it is recruiting doesn't seem to be something that comes naturally to Alley. There are coaches that are very natural recruiters. I'll give you several good examples that are on Oklahoma's staff right now because there are a lot of guys on Oklahoma's staff that just so happen to be excellent recruiters by nature.
Todd Bates.
Brandon Hall is one of those guys. Todd Bates is one of those guys. Jay Valai is absolutely one of those guys. But then you have somebody like Bill Bedenbaugh, right? Where, and we've talked about this, he just doesn't have the same type of personality that Bates or Hall or Valai or even like a Miguel Chavis does with recruits. But he's a good enough ball coach that especially with where he's at in his career, that doesn't really matter. Because guys don't, especially these days, guys don't want to play for Bill Bedenbaugh because he's going to be their best buddy. In fact, quite the opposite. They want to play for Bill Bedenbaugh because he's going to get them to the next level. And so I would think 5-10 years from now, if things go according to plan for Zach Alley, that's probably the type of guy that he winds up being. Not somebody that when recruits leave town for their official visits and they're doing the whole interview circuit afterwards, they're saying, yeah, man, I just click really well with Zach Alley. No, they're saying, the reason I'd love to go play for Zach Alley is because he's going to get me to the NFL. You're going to hear very few recruits say that they click really well with Bill Bedenbaugh. But one thing they will all say about Bill Bedenbaugh is when I sit in the film room with that guy, he knows football like nobody you will ever talk to in your life. And he has done it so many times over the years with his offensive linemen at Oklahoma that I'm confident if I show up and I put in the work that he can and will get me to the NFL.
Michael and Marlowe asks, from OU to West Virginia is a promotion. The reason I said it's a promotion, A, he got a lot more money.
And he got a lot more responsibility.
And he gets to make a defense in his own image instead of kind of being under the shadow of Brent Venables.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I call it a promotion.
And
by the way, just to piggyback off that last point, Parker, isn't Zach Alley too young to be trying to reel in recruits based on I'm a really good defensive mind?
Certainly.
Like imagine if Ben Arbuckle went about it that way. That probably doesn't work because he doesn't have enough skins on the wall.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a kind of an interesting dynamic there with Zach because it's like you're 31, 32 years old, however old he is. You haven't done this for long enough to where you can't connect with recruits and still hope to bring in the best possible talent.
Mm-hmm. And to circle back around and kind of tie the bow on Glenn from Nashville's text, this cycle is where you're going to start to see Oklahoma recruit the linebacker position a little bit better.
I mean, we're already seeing it.
They have Ja'Cory Smith on board. The overwhelming likelihood is that they're going to get Bo Jandro on board. And they sit in great position right now for Braxton Lindsey as well. Go watch the huddle if you haven't already. With all three of those guys.
Very good players.
Ja'Cory Smith, Bo Jandro, Braxton Lindsey. That is as good a haul at the linebacker position as Oklahoma has had in recent memory, comparable to the haul that they had in 2023 with Samuel Masigo, Lewis Carter, Phil Picciotti, and Taylor Heim. But obviously Picciotti, if we're looking at it in retrospect, he had a couple knee injuries, never played here, has since transferred to UCF. Carter also coincidentally transferred to UCF, and the jury's still out on Taylor Heim. Arrow's been pointing up lately, but he still hasn't played at a high level at Oklahoma yet. So it's one thing to judge those guys when they sign. It's another thing entirely to judge where they end up at the conclusion of their collegiate careers. So that 2023 class was great on paper, and I think the 2026 class that Oklahoma appears poised to land at linebacker will be comparable. Ultimately, though, the hope in the long run is that what you get out of Jandro, Lindsey, and Smith as a trio over the course of the next 4 or 5 years outpaces what you got collectively out of Omasigo, Picciotti, Carter, and Heim. Because only Omasigo and Heim at this point have the ability to write any more of their legacy at the University of Oklahoma. The book's already closed on Picciotti and Carter. The Waffler says, dude, I hope they get Braxton Lindsey. That kid is going to be a beast. Yes. Braxton Lindsey, to me, he is, if I had to pick 5 guys in the 2026 class that are scheduled for OVs with Oklahoma that I feel like, for a variety of reasons, are must-get dudes for Oklahoma, Braxton Lindsey is easily on that list for me. Easily. He is an exceptional talent and an incredibly versatile football player, as evidenced by the fact that he's had college offers to go play off-ball linebacker, to play defensive end, and to play tight end. And if you paid attention to some of the things that I reported over the weekend on OU Insider, one of the things that Oklahoma did with Lindsey while he was on campus this weekend is they started to kind of unroll a pitch that actually features some two-way action for Lindsey. They want to play him at tight end situationally, in addition to hopefully getting a really, really talented, rangy linebacker out of the deal. And he's primarily going to be a linebacker, at least if he winds up at Oklahoma. But they want to find ways to utilize his unique skill set on the offensive side as well.
House Money Productions on our YouTube chat, which, by the way, we're on YouTube, so if you're able, click over there, KREF Sports. House Money Productions says, bro, why the F are we competing with Rutgers? I think my tagline on our YouTube video is doing its job.
Was that the okay? Yep, makes some sense. Here's the deal: you're going to see Oklahoma go toe-to-toe with schools in the years ahead that you're not traditionally seeing or used to seeing Oklahoma go toe-to-toe with. This is going to be a natural consequence of the shift. And we have talked about the philosophical shift that is coming by virtue of Jim Nagy's addition and the compilation of his front office staff at Oklahoma. Yes, they're going to recruit some nationally elite prospects. But they're also, more commonly than they have at Oklahoma in the past, they're going to dig for those hidden gems amongst the ranks of the 3 stars. If you're not already sensing a trend with this 2026 cycle and the commits that Oklahoma has already added, I'm just trying to prepare y'all now. You're going to see a lot more guys in that high 3-star range signing with Oklahoma in the next several cycles, I believe, than you have in the past. And the reason being is because that's a symptom, that's a product, that's an effect of the philosophical shift. Jim Nagy and company are not showing up to recruit guys that are completely off the radar to other P4 schools. Because there's a reason why guys like that are completely off the radar to other P4 schools. They're not good enough, generally speaking, 90% of cases. But they're going to find guys that are not of interest to a ton of P4 schools outside of the ones that have really done their comprehensive homework. And I think it's easy to identify some of those schools that do their homework for themselves. Texas Tech certainly does. Iowa State certainly does. Kansas State, to a lesser extent. Iowa State and Texas Tech, to me, are the 2 most prominent examples. But Kansas State is pretty good.
I think Arizona State could fall into this category, too.
Arizona State's certainly getting there. That's a very good point. There are schools that you're going to see on the offer sheet more commonly for some OU targets and commits in future years. And it's not going to – you're still going to see Texas A&M and LSU and Georgia and Alabama. And you're still going to see Oklahoma going toe-to-toe with the national powers for the likes of a guy like Desmond Green, right? But it's also going to be more of a regular phenomenon that you see Oklahoma going off the beaten path to go pick up a guy like Matthew Nelson or even the Jandro brothers, right? Because their offer sheets blew up, but at the time that Oklahoma had offered them,
correct,
I think Bo had 3 Power 4 offers and Nico had 1. Very similar, by the way, if you look at how Danny Odom's recruitment has unfolded. Oklahoma was a watershed offer. You could argue the watershed offer for Danny Odom. Once Oklahoma got involved, all the big boys started coming around. Clemson, Ohio State, Auburn, Florida, and the like. And if you see that happening year in and year out, and I do believe you will, that's how you know Jim Nagy and those boys are doing their job.
On the Knippelmeyer Chevrolet text line, shame on me for not pointing this out, but that's a very Oklahoma State approach too, by the way. A couple people on the text line pointing that out.
Oklahoma State is just such an interesting program when it comes to their
no doubt
way of life in recruiting.
Mm-hmm.
They recruit like no other school in the country. I'm not even sure how to adequately encapsulate it concisely. Big Mike Boganowski texted us again and said, floating the Niobrara River in the Sandhills is amazing. Yes and amen. If you've never done that, do it at some point. Gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous. You will relish it and remember it forever. 405-651-3439 is the Knippelmeyer Chevrolet text line. We will wrap up Locked In on the other side with more OU football and recruiting coverage. Keep it right here on the home of Sooner fans.
Bleed Crimson? Love great Sooner talk? Join the Ref Army by downloading our free app. Toby and TJ, Plank and Josh, Steelman and Thune, and Teddy and Tyler. We have the Sooner experts. The Ref is home to Sooner fans worldwide.
Do you like to stand out in a crowd while wearing the best in OU apparel? The Jimmy Austin Pro Shop carries the best brands you can wear to work or even dress up events. Lines such as Lululemon, Travis Mathew, FootJoy, Greg Norman, Grayson, or Turtleson with the OU and Jimmy Austin logo are sure to catch everyone's eye. You don't have to be a golfer to shop at Jimmy Austin. They also do corporate special orders for you and your company. Call them today, 405-325-6716, or visit theougolfclub.com for more information.
How do I say goodbye?
Hey, Ref Army, we're saying goodbye to 20-plus years of the T-Row in the Morning Show, and you're invited. Join us Tuesday, June 17th from 9 to noon for a special edition of The Plank Show live at the Mont as we do our best to give T-Row and TJ the send-off they deserve. Have some queso, a swirl, some laughs, and say goodbye to the fellas with the rest of the Ref Army. That's Tuesday morning at the Mont from 9 to noon as we say farewell to the T-Row in the Morning Show on the Ref.
Ah, the sounds of summer. You expect to hear this, not this. At bath time, the giggles should echo. Not alarms, but accidents happen fast. In just a moment, everything can change. Keep kids safe around water with these simple steps. Assign a responsible adult to watch the water. No phones, no distractions. Never take your eyes off a child during bath time. And always check for hidden dangers where kids play. Let's make water safety part of every day. For more information, visit oklahoma.gov/health/drowning.
Children who've experienced abuse or neglect face a frightening, profound unknown. Courtrooms, foster care, new schools. No child should face these alone. Trained and supported court-appointed special advocates or CASA volunteers advocate in court on behalf of these children. They stay with each child until the case is closed and the child is in a safe, permanent home. Volunteers make a life-changing difference, but more children need our help. Lend your voice and change a child's story today. Learn how you can help right here in your community. Visit southcentralcasa.org.
Hey guys, it's Chris Blank. Have you been involved in an auto accident? If so, it's time to contact the OKC Car Crash Clinic of Dr. Martin Lopez. He is a board-certified and fellowship MD with unparalleled training and experience. Dr. Lopez works with a great team of healthcare professionals and attorneys to help you achieve the best physical and financial recovery. Contact Dr. Lopez at 405-86-CRASH or at okccrash.com. And don't forget, listen every week to The Plank Show for the Impact Player of the Game, brought to you by Dr. Martin Lopez.
Dreaming of an escape? What about a relaxing escape to your very own backyard? Signature Custom Pools can turn your dreams into reality. Signature Custom Pools creates distinctive designs to fit your perfect getaway. Call Signature Custom Pools for your free design consultation at 405-898-9098 or visit them online at signaturecustompools.com and turn your backyard into your dream escape.
It's been said that when someone you love has Parkinson's, you have Parkinson's.
The Parkinson's Foundation knows that the disease doesn't just affect the diagnosed, it affects everyone who supports and helps care for them.
If you have questions, the Parkinson's Foundation has answers.
We can help you understand the disease
and give you tips for living a better life.
Find your answers at parkinson.org or call 1-800-473-4636. The Parkinson's Foundation. Better lives together.
This is Mark Van Hoos, owner of Van Hoos Fence. Van Hoos Fence has years of experience and proven superior performance, kind of like a certain head ball coach.
We know Van Hoos Fence offers the best value and service for your residential, commercial, or sports fencing needs. Whether it's a new install or repair work, let Mark and his team at Van Hoos Fence be your trusted resource.
Call us today at 405-735-1167.
Save yourself from Googling it up. Go to vhfence.com. They will work with you in a great way.
Malik Hawkins just posted a video to Twitter of Elijah Thomas doing a 180 full windmill dunk in the Lloyd Noble Center. So in case there were any questions about Eli Thomas's level of athleticism, that kid's going to be special.
I always wished I could windmill when I was playing.
Could you not?
No. Was dunking a basketball at 13, but never was able to do that.
You were dunking at 13?
Yes.
Impressive.
That's why my knees are so bad.
It makes sense. Makes sense. 405-651-3439 is the Knippel Meyer Chevrolet text line. One segment left here on Locked In. Parker Thune alongside Grayson Singleton. Mike S. says, so why not swing for big-time players as well? Do we really need to moneyball this? I'm all for hidden gems here. Meanwhile, Ohio State, Texas, Bama, Georgia, etc. Listen, oh my goodness. It's not one or the other, people. It's not one or the other. And this is why I would, like, for those of you that have watched the movie Moneyball, this is why I would encourage you to read the book as well. Because there is so much that is left out of the movie because you can only cram so much into a 2-hour movie. Here's what the movie doesn't tell you about the Moneyball A's. They had star power on that roster. Tim Hudson, Mark Mulder, those were both 20-game winners at a certain point. Miguel Tejada, at the time, was regarded as one of the best players in all of baseball.
Mm-hmm.
The Moneyball A's weren't just a roster of 25 Scott Hattebergs. There were stars on that roster, too. And likewise, Oklahoma is going to swing for big-time players. Here's the problem, though. The current era of college football, the era in which we exist, is going to dictate that the overwhelming majority of schools, darn near all of them, I mean, I guess, okay, Oregon has unlimited money and all that. The overwhelming majority of schools are only going to be able to accommodate so many quote-unquote big-time players on their payroll. Oklahoma's going to get some big-time players, but you can't sign a class of 23, 24 big-time players. You're not going to be able to pay them all. Even if that was realistic for everybody in your class to be a super blue-chip player, you can't make room for all of them. That's the reality. That's the reality not just at Oklahoma, but everywhere else. And that's why I think it's so encouraging that Oklahoma is going this direction under Jim Nagy, because they're getting ahead of the curve. At a certain point, everybody across the country is going to realize that we have to do a better job of evaluating the quote-unquote fringe players. We have to do a better job of evaluating those guys because that's what's going to make success in football at this particular institution, wherever it may be, sustainable. Because who's to say, until we get unlimited free agency reined in some capacity, who's to say that even those big-time players that you do get aren't hitting the portal at season's end for more money somewhere else?
And here's what you also have to realize, too, is that most of these guys are not going to make an impact immediately following their signing at that particular star, i.e. their freshman year.
Exactly.
You still have to project their development with your current staff. So, everything is so instant gratification, and I get it. Eli Bowen and Jaden Jackson breaking out last year probably doesn't help this argument, but that's 2 of 22 starters. The reality of the situation is, when you bring these guys in, they still have to become acclimated to college football and then become college football players. Not every 4- and 5-star comes into the building as a college football ready-made player, especially in the SEC. So you've got to project out their development over a course of 2+ years, and sometimes you like that projection with a 3-star.
I think there are a lot of folks that when we're talking recruiting conveniently seem to forget that a coach's primary job is to coach. And to this text,
and it can be kind of easy to do that.
Well, I want to expound upon that point because there's a listener in the 214 down in Texas that said, shouldn't we consider this an outstanding class for Patty Gasso? If so, you need to help Parker understand that stars do in fact matter as he continues to frustrate many listeners with his enthusiasm over 3 stars. So which is it? Do stars matter or not? And obviously that listener is making reference to the star-studded class that Patty Gasso brought in, which is the best class in the country in softball. But what is Patty Gasso? If you asked the average human being, even the average Oklahoma fan, what Patty Gasso is the greatest at, they're not going to say, she's the greatest recruiter that softball has ever seen. They're going to say, she's the greatest coach that softball has ever seen. And that's why she can recruit as spectacularly as she does. Because when you win 4 straight national titles in a row, and when you're able to take a team from, she got there in what, 1995 maybe? 94, 95? When you're able to take a team from playing at, what is the name of that park? Reeves Park? Where they play intramurals now at OU, to 30 years later playing in the premier softball facility in the entire country. When you're able to literally build it up from nothing, that has much less to do with recruiting as it does with coaching. At a certain point, the recruiting takes care of itself. And yes, stars matter, but stars are not everything. Yes, stars matter, but over the last decade, for instance, would you rather have been Texas A&M or Kansas State? Texas A&M was recruiting
Kansas State.
Texas A&M was recruiting 5 stars on top of 5 stars and getting not a whole heck of a lot out of it. K-State was building their roster year in, year out with a new crop of 3 stars. But you know what they were doing? They were developing. And I'm not suggesting that Oklahoma is going to fully adopt the Kansas State philosophy. Oklahoma's always going to be able to recruit stars. But it's not just about recruiting the stars. It's about developing the players that sign with your institution, whether they are 5 stars or 4 stars or 3 stars or freaking walk-ons.
You know what's interesting about this, too, is that the NFL draft was a couple months ago, and you see this all the time. Draft experts will bring out their rankings of every single position. And how many times does the way the draft go perfectly follow those rankings? Almost never. Because different front offices see different players developing at a faster rate with their guys. Regardless of where Daniel Jeremiah or Mel Kiper has them.
Zero Star Joe says, Moneyball won how many championships? Should we compare ourselves to the likes of ISU and K-State? You ever watched Moneyball all the way through? You remember the slides that roll right before the credits? Which says that Billy Beane turned down the Boston Red Sox offer of $13 million to become the highest paid general manager in baseball history. But 2 years later, the Red Sox won their first World Series since 1918 using the philosophy championed in Oakland. The reason the Oakland A's never won a title in the Moneyball era is because, as well as they evaluated talent and cut against the grain, they still didn't have enough resources.
Mm-hmm.
The Boston Red Sox did. Oklahoma is not Iowa State. Oklahoma is Oklahoma. Oklahoma, as far as sheer massive resources is concerned, is and will always be one of the top 10 programs in all of college football. Oklahoma is not the Moneyball A's. They're the post-Moneyball Boston Red Sox. The philosophies that they are using, combined with the resources that exist, if all goes according to plan, those are the things that are going to help position Oklahoma for championships and can help position Oklahoma for championships. Whether it actually happens, only time will tell.
One more. Denver from Indiana. Does that new settlement win process even the field a bit? I wouldn't count on that because I don't think that whole clearinghouse thing that has to approve NIL stuff is going to hold up in court. That seems something about that seems unconstitutional to me.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that's going to go through.
I'll tell you, I had one topic that I wanted to get to today that we just ran out of time for, but we have more runway to discuss it. We certainly will tomorrow. And that is the official visit coming up this weekend for 4-star running back Dzathan Walker out of Peculiar, Missouri. He's going to be the first running back this OV season to take a trip down to Oklahoma. He is, as of yet, uncommitted. Sooners primarily battling Nebraska down the stretch for his pledge. So we'll see where that lands. And there's another running back that just recently scheduled an official visit to Oklahoma as well. A blue chipper, folks, a 4-star running back. He's going to be making his very first trip up to Norman. We'll talk about it tomorrow. Hope you guys will join us. For Grayson Singleton, I'm Parker Thune. Thanks for coming along for the ride today on Locked In. Don't go anywhere because Tyler McComas and Teddy Lehman take over next. The Rush is coming up. You're listening to The Ref, the home of Sooner fans.